Hi, this is AP and DP with SEC and ACC conference coverage. My co-host, Doug Parrish, DP, former extraordinary defensive back for the University of California Bears and the CFL. I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama, multimedia personality. Hey, Doug.
Hi, AP. Good to be with you today.
Great to be here, Doug. We had an outstanding weekend. I was in Las Vegas covering one of the biggest games of last weekend. The LSU Tigers from the SEC versus the USC Trojans from the Big Ten. LSU was on the short end of that score, 27-20. USC had some couple of drives in the fourth quarter. LSU's coach Brian Kelly was disappointed because his Tigers were undisciplined with some of their penalties, celebration, taking the helmet off early. Both teams played much better defensively with their tackling and aggressiveness. So I think it was an improvement from last year. Both coaches were happy in that regard. Only one coach was happy with the score.
Sure. You know, it's kind of interesting. Playing in Las Vegas adds a lot of excitement in itself. Playing, where the Raiders play, you got to love that atmosphere. Al Davis, spirit is all in there. So good, AP. I'm glad you were able to check that game out. Very competitive. But definitely LSU, they have to play smarter football.
Yes, that's the key for them moving down the road. There's plenty of talent there. Garrett Nussmeier had an excellent ball game, over 300 yards. He had the one interception at the end. But anyway, Doug, we're going to look at some of the primetime games for this week. We're going to get to everybody in the SEC and the ACC. We're going to start with Arkansas traveling to Stillwater, Oklahoma State. We noticed that Oklahoma State has the outstanding running back, Ollie Gordon, All-American candidate once again this year. Taylon Green, the transfer quarterback from Boise State with Arkansas. They scored on 10 consecutive possessions against Arkansas Pine Bluff last year. So Bobby Petrino's offense is clicking at the moment. They're a 7.5-point underdog, but Taylon Green looks the part, Doug, at quarterback. Big, 6'5", 230 pounds, can run 200-plus yards, almost 100 yards rushing. So that's going to be a fantastic game between the SEC and the Big 12.
Absolutely.
And now, Doug, we're going to move on to the next game. This is the biggest game on the schedule, I believe, Doug. It's Texas out of the SEC. This is one of the blue bloods in America, top 4 all-time winner against Michigan, the number 1 winner out of the Big Ten. They're traveling to Ann Arbor. Doug, these teams, believe it or not, have never met in the regular season. That's incredible. Incredible. I mean, it's outrageous. They met in the Rose Bowl 2005 as a 1-point victory by Texas with a last-second field goal, I believe. Vince Young was the quarterback. Texas, with all those hosts of receivers, multiple receivers, Doug, and good tight ends. I think Michigan will have trouble guarding so many people. Quinn Ewers played at Ohio State originally as a backup, so he's familiar with Michigan, went back to his native state, leading the Longhorns now. Michigan, Doug, they have that 2-quarterback system. They have a walk-on, Davis Warren, and then Alex Orji as a dual-threat quarterback. They'll probably try to use both of them. They'll throw to that tight end, Loveland. He's very good. Michigan, they try to play defense, right? Play defense, right. Run the football the best they can, and they have a 20-something game winning streak. Michigan at home, believe it or not, Doug, underdog, 7.5 points. That's very, very unusual.
Very unusual. And I think it contributes to the fact that Jim Harbaugh has migrated to the NFL, left a huge gap. There's a little bit of a stain on the team up there right now. They're trying to overcome some of those hurdles. And then look at the right side of Texas, which is Steve Sarkisian, who was a assistant coach for the great coach here at Alabama, one of your favorites. And one of mine as well. Yeah, Nick Saban came in here and won a few championships. So, yeah, I think that Sarkisian knows how to win.
Yeah, I spoke to I spoke to Steve Sarkisian this week, Doug, and I asked him about playing in the big house with 100,000 plus people. And he mentioned to be poised and composed because you can have a clear mind when you have those things in your favor. Being poised and composed will give you the clear mind to make the proper decisions in a tense pressure situation.
Absolutely. That's great experience of knowing how to win. I mean, Sarkisian has won a lot of games over his coaching career back when he coached at Washington. I mean, he knows how to win.
Yeah, he said Michigan resembles Stanford. A lot of tight ends, those type of formations. Yeah, with the new coach Jerome Moore, the new coach. Hey, Doug, what's happening? A couple big games in the ACC.
Well, I'm gonna just talk about a few teams that I think have some real upside. And my alma mater, Cal Berkeley, is one of the top games I'm gonna start with. Got to start with the Golden Bears. They play SEC 1-0 Auburn Tigers. I'm looking forward to the Tiger Walk. I'm looking forward to the rowdiness of that atmosphere that's going to be held down at Jordair Stadium down in Auburn. It's going to be a wild game. I've been getting phone calls from the Auburn fans that traveled way out on the West Coast last season.
We were there.
Yeah, they are diehards, and I'm just so excited to see that game. Auburn is favored by 13.5 points by some folks. That's a slap in the face, I think, for Cal Berkeley. If I saw that as a Cal football player, I would be coming in here very hungry and saying that you guys disrespected us, and we're going to show you how the Cal Berkeley Bears play. So I know that you are a fan of the SEC. I'm going to let you chime in a little bit about what your thoughts are on the SEC side of the ball with Cal versus Stanford.
Yeah, I'm worried about
Cal versus Auburn.
The running back from Cal. Is it Jaden Ott, correct? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, I like him. He's potential to be an All-American for the Bears. I think Auburn must concentrate on him for stopping that run. And I think Peyton Thorne and company with these new set of receivers, they'll have a better advantage than last season. That was a tight ball game out there. Sammy Jackson, the former California quarterback, transferred to Auburn. Peyton Thorne and Sammy Jackson were teammates in Illinois high school in the high school ranks. So that's an interesting side story with this game. And then the Cal Bears, as far as I know, Doug, the last time they were in Alabama was 1973 when they faced the Crimson Tide. It was a doubleheader. Legion Field, Birmingham, Alabama. Auburn, I believe, hosted Oregon State, and then Cal played out Alabama. But I think it'd be a pretty competitive game, maybe till the end. I think Auburn, with their fan base and their ability to throw the ball to those receivers. And Rivaldo Fairweather, we know he caught the winning touchdown, the tight end for Auburn last year. He's probably going to blossom and be better, Doug, because they have more people on the perimeter that are threats.
Absolutely. And you talk about the threats on the end. We got to talk about Cal secondary. Noel Williams and Craig Woodson. Those two guys are the leaders of the team. They were on my show earlier this year, and just great guys, great character guys. And you got to also look at the quarterback for Cal. You got to look at Fernando Mendoza. He's going to have to be the leader, especially since Jaden Ott, who may have gotten a little bit of a limp towards the end of the game with against UC Davis. But, I look back at that game against UC Davis last week, and it's like the tale of two halves. Like Cal came out, they were stuttering and sputtering a little bit, but then in the second half, they just fired on all cylinders. So Cal secondary is going to have to be dynamic to stop the Auburn wide receivers. And then don't forget special teams. Noel Williams, who's one of the leaders in the secondary that I just mentioned, he returned a kickoff back to the house all the way for a touchdown. So don't underestimate Cal's special teams and the blocking that they do for their returners.
Yeah, that's always comes into play in these games when you're on the road, Doug. If you can get a quick touchdown or a good field position, you silence the crowd. You have some credibility and momentum, and the confidence grows with the players and the coaching staff as well.
Absolutely. And then another one that I'm looking at is Duke versus Northwestern. So
that's
Northwestern,
Doug, that's the library game, right?
Big Ten versus ACC. You gotta love it,
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Duke
Smart players,
pretty smart players. Yeah. So Northwestern is obviously in the Big Ten. They typically are in the middle of the pack you know, you got the Wisconsins, you got the Illinois up there, and obviously you have Michigan, who is at the top. And don't forget about Ohio State. But Northwestern plays in hovering around that middle of the pack up there in the Big Ten. They're going to come and play against the Blue Devils. Easy for me to say.
Right.
And so it's, you know, it's really interesting. It's really interesting because you talk about, you know, cerebral players. Those are the type of players that are going to go out there and give it 110% because they may or may not have all of the Alabama, Georgia physique and muscle and physicality, right. But we'll see a really good game.
Yeah, I like that matchup. That's a fun ball game for both schools, I think, Doug.
Absolutely.
Okay, Doug, moving back to the SEC, we have the first conference game this year. South Carolina travels to Lexington, Kentucky. Kentucky's a 10-point favorite. They have their transfer quarterback, Brock Vandagriff, and a host of receivers that they're juniors now, Barian Brown and Dane Key. They have to come to life now. It's their time, and they have a quarterback that's very capable. Kentucky had an interesting game last week because it was halted by the weather. 2-hour delay. They ended up winning 31-0. They ended it in the third quarter. It was very unique. But I think in Kentucky, the two coaches, Doug, they're not best of friends. I'll just say that. Mm-hmm. And I think Kentucky will have the advantage in that game. Oh, yeah, we have Ole Miss, Doug. They're a 41-point favorite, Doug.
Wow.
Only 41-point favorite. They'll be playing Middle Tennessee State. So that's just another warm-up game. You're working on your passing game, the precision, the timing. You're cleaning up some things that happened in the first game. Better blocking, coverage on your defense. Make sure you're on the same page, attacking the quarterback, having good special teams. So that's a game that I call it the family and friends game. Doug, you give the tickets to family and friends because you know it's a big victory for your team.
Sounds good. You know, I'm going to touch a little bit on this Clemson game. You know, these guys, Dabo Swinney is going to have his team ready to go against App State. So it's going to be another friends and family game, you know, for Clemson. You know, they're going to be. Yeah, definitely.
Doug, we all know that Appalachian State, they're the ones who upset Michigan at the Big House that time. They shocked the world. Remember that years ago? That's one of the most famous games where a team of that level beat a blue blood, the top team ever of all time, number one in wins. So, but Clemson last week against Georgia was not good. They didn't score, but only 3 points. The offense was not productive. The defense, final score is 34-3. So Clemson, those coaches, it was not a very good week for them.
No, not at all. So next I have Florida State. It looks like Florida State is going to have a bye this week, and probably a good reason, a good time for them to take a bye.
I think so.
Yeah, they came out looking strong. They were projected in the top 25 by a lot of procrastinators out there, you know, determining who was going to be ranked where. And it's just quite interesting how, you know, a team with so much trajectory of thinking that they're going to be one of the top teams in the country can lose twice.
They faltered.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row. Yeah, Georgia Tech over in Ireland, and then Boston College came down to Tallahassee and beat him. Boston College, Doug, you know, the new coach, Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
He's been successful in many places, a good, solid football coach. So,
yeah,
that hurt them.
Yeah. Speaking of
Doug,
Georgia
I think
Tech,
we're back to.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, speaking.
Go ahead with Georgia Tech. Go ahead.
Yeah, because they're the team that has some momentum right now. They actually they play Syracuse, and so we're looking to. Syracuse was one of those teams that were in the top 25 that received one of those top 25 votes earlier in the season. So a lot of people are looking for them to have a really good season and to go up against Georgia Tech. I think this is going to be one of the most dynamic games in the ACC this weekend.
Haynes King, the quarterback, transferred from Texas A&M for Georgia Tech. He's been playing very well, and for Brent Key over there. Yeah, doing a nice job for him. So, but anyhow, we'll look forward to the next game I got on the board here. The two SEC teams, Alabama, was coming off a 63-zip win over Western Kentucky. Kalen DeBoer's debut as the head coach of the Crimson Tide. Doug, I just want to mention that one player, Ryan Williams from down here on the coast, Carolina High School. He's been projected to be a talented receiver. He showed out the first game, 100+ yards. I think his first reception was 70, 80-yard touchdown. So, and he's only 17 years old. He reclassified. So I just like to mention him. He's going to be the top receiver in my mind with that Alabama team. And Jalen Milroe, I think, as he said, Jalen Milroe's number 4 and Ryan Williams is number 2. He said 2 + 4 = 6. So I think there's going to be a lot of that 2 + 4 combination to score 6 points for the Crimson Tide. And they're hosting South Florida, 30-point favorites. So they're going to dedicate the field to Nick Saban. So that's exciting for all those fans who have watched Alabama through the years to have the field dedicated to the legendary coach Nick Saban. Going to look at Mizzou. Doug, I like Missouri. That's one of the teams I told you at the beginning of the season. I like them to make the playoffs coming out of the SEC. I really do, because of Luther Burden III, the wide receiver, and their quarterback Cook. That's a dynamic combination, one of the best in the country. They're a 34-point favorite, and they're playing Buffalo, so that should be no problem. They'll just work on their timing and rhythm, like all these teams that are playing that family and friends type of game, and clean up the things on defense and the offensive line, working together. They're just looking for improvement and survive the game with no injuries.
Yeah, they're ranked number 9 in the country right now, so for a very, very good team.
Yes.
So we're looking at Miami. Miami looks like they are going to be playing against the
Florida A&M, FAMU.
Oh my goodness, FAMU, interstate rivalry.
Well, it's always nice to play teams from your state. Maybe you were not recruited by that bigger school. You have a chip on your shoulder. They're historically black college and university. FAMU, famous through the years. A lot of great ball players. But Miami seems to be pretty strong with Cam Moore, the transfer from Washington State and Incarnate. Like, he's thrown for about, in his college career already, 14,000 yards. Cam Moore. He had the big game in Gainesville. Beat Florida 41-14. He's not very big, but he's quite effective.
Awesome. And who do you got next, AP?
Yeah, we're going to double up on this one, Doug. We have Tennessee out of the SEC and North Carolina State out of the ACC playing on the neutral site in Charlotte. So Tennessee with their quarterback Nico Iamaleava. He's big, 6'5", 6'6". Great delivery under that the tutelage of Josh Heupel. That offense is going to be prolific this year, Doug, and they've shown to be excellent group of receivers playing North Carolina State. I think Tennessee's a team that I believe they can get in the playoffs, Doug, because of the resurgence of the offense, and their defense should be slightly better. That's what they're trying to improve with Josh Heupel, getting better on the defensive side, because we know offensively they're usually very good. They're in the very good category, if not excellent.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And it's interesting to see that they're playing on a neutral field. It does add a little bit of anticipation for this game, especially since North Carolina State has been, kind of in the middle of the pack in the ACC. And now they're going to get a chance to prove themselves by playing a formidable Tennessee Volunteer. So looking forward to seeing North Carolina State have that challenge and possibly winning that game.
Yeah, Grayson McCall, the transfer from Coastal Carolina, is the quarterback for North Carolina State. They're 7.5-point underdogs in Charlotte, with the Tennessee being the favorite. So, but I think it's going to be a fun game because, as you say, we cover SEC and ACC. We love to see these games.
Absolutely. Okay, so if I could take a stab at one of these,
go ahead.
Let's see. We got Wake Forest versus Virginia.
Conference game, yeah, conference game.
Yeah, we gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. And you take a look at Wake Forest. We talked about these guys being at the ACC media days, and although that was a few months ago, you could still feel the momentum and the energy of the coaches and also the players. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these two teams, which are typically middle of the road teams in these conferences, how they butt up against each other and play competitively.
Right. I saw last week Hank Bachmeyer, the transfer from Boise State to Louisiana Tech to Wake Forest. He came off the bench to throw 3 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to be the starter this week, but I know he's very talented. So, and I know Virginia, they're trying to rejuvenate that program under Tony Elliott. And even though he was the DC, I believe, at Clemson prior to moving over to Virginia. So it should be a pretty good ball game. Wake Forest is hosting Virginia, the Cavaliers.
Absolutely. And one of the teams or games we wanted to team up on is Pitt and Cincinnati. You got the Big 12 going up against the ACC here.
Right. Yeah. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, Doug, through the years, they've contended for the title of that conference, so they've had their moments. And Cincinnati, we saw them make the playoffs a few years back, and 8 or 9 players drafted, Doug, from Cincinnati. Think about it. You've had years where Texas didn't have somebody drafted. Cincinnati at 8 or 9. Luke Fickell, the coach at the time, different coach now, but Pitt's at Cincinnati. So the two conferences, ACC versus the Big 12.
Absolutely. And Pitt traditionally has a lot of great players that go into the NFL. So, I think that they're not going to be hard on the eye this weekend when they play against Cincinnati of the Big 12.
Right. Oh, yeah. Doug, I was going to look at one game here. Mississippi State, they travel with their first-year coach, Jeff Levy, and their transfer quarterback, Blake Shapen, from Baylor to Arizona State. So that is the SEC versus the Big 12. Arizona State is a new new team in the Big 12 conference. And if Jeff Levy can go to the West and beat Arizona State, that'd be a nice win for his team on the road against a Power 5 team. Now, we know that Mississippi State, with Jeff Levy, the offense is much better. The quarterback, he had a nice ball game. Mississippi State, they played Eastern Kentucky with a 56-7 victory. But I think this is a early key moment for Jeff Levy as a first-year coach at Mississippi State in Starkville.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we go ahead. We have Georgia, Doug. They're only a 53.5 point favorite, Doug. Georgia against Tennessee Tech.
That's 53. That's it.
So we talked about that, how they demolished Clemson last week, 34-3. It took them a moment, took them a while to finish with that point total of 34, but it was no contest in the end. We know they're loaded, both sides of the football. Carson Beck, the quarterback, excellent passer and leader. So Georgia continues their winning ways this week, being a 53-point favorite over Tennessee Tech.
Absolutely. Well, what's interesting is that we have a pretty good game coming up here this weekend as well in the ACC. We have SMU, a new entry into the ACC this year. And what's interesting is that they play BYU from the Big 12. Now, the Big 12, as you know, we've talked about the Big 12. We talked about Cincinnati. We talked about other teams that are in the Big 12. But BYU is one of those sleeper teams this year for me, AP.
Yeah, the two U's going against each other, right? SMU and BYU. But probably a big offensive total at the end of the game, Doug. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's going to be quite a few points scored.
Traditionally, they're the teams with the quarterbacks, right?
Yes. Yeah. Doug, I want to bring up Vanderbilt. Big win last week over Virginia Tech. Doug, Virginia Tech, it was a good win for them. Vanderbilt's going to be facing Alcorn State out of Mississippi, historically black college and university. But Vanderbilt, with their quarterback, the transfer from New Mexico State, he was brought along with the offensive coordinator from New Mexico State, Pavin. So he was very good last week, and There was an overtime win. They had a big lead. I think it was 20-0 or something. And Virginia Tech came all the way back to tie it up. But Vanderbilt prevailed. That was a huge win for them because that's a Power 5 team. It's been a moment since they had that type of win. So good for Vanderbilt. Then we're looking at Texas A&M, who hosted Notre Dame. They ended up losing by 10 points. The quarterback, Connor Wigman, did not have a good game. In statistics, Doug, when I looked him up prior to the game, I think a couple interceptions, 16 TDs, 2 interceptions in his career. I think last year he threw a couple last week. They didn't move the ball effectively. Notre Dame, good defensive team. I like Notre Dame's defense, Doug.
Yeah,
I like their defense. And then Riley Leonard played well enough against a big crowd down there in College Station. He's from Fairhope, Alabama, transferred from Duke of the ACC. But Notre Dame with a key victory for them to try to get themselves into the playoffs down the road. So Texas A&M has to regroup, Doug. They're an 18.5-point favorite to McNeese State. That's, like, as we said, a family and friends game. They should win that handily. They need to rebound and have a solid offensive game. Put points on the board.
Absolutely. I think we're leaving out one of the Cal Berkeley rivals, which is Stanford Cardinals. They have a pretty friends and family game this week with Cal Poly.
Cal Poly, okay, sure. That's a library game once again. Stanford has a better library, I think, Doug, on that game. I believe so, as you said.
Yeah. Absolutely. My old friend Troy Taylor, head coach. I'm sure he's going to have his guys ready to go for that game. So
yeah, he was your quarterback at Cal, Doug. Troy
absolutely. Taylor. Yeah. Worked his way up. He's a hard worker.
Oh yeah, Doug. We just got 3 games left, and I'll just go over them from the SEC. LSU, as I say, the heartbreaking loss to USC in Las Vegas. They're going to have to regroup. They're playing Nicholls State, so that game, I think it's only 51-point favorite, Doug. That's all, only 51 points. So they've got to just be more disciplined. They have plenty of talent, Doug. Their defense played better. That was a good sign for them. They're extremely disappointed with the loss because of the nature of the penalties. It was self-inflicted, undisciplined penalties. So LSU, they'll probably take it out on Nicholls State. Hope it's not too bad. Anyway, then we have Florida, Doug. Florida took a beating from Miami of the ACC, 41-14. Graham Mertz had the concussion, so he's under the protocol. So now they have that freshman DJ Lagway. He's highly recruited from Texas, big quarterback, Doug. I think he's 6'3" or 4, 230 pounds. So I think the Florida Gator fans are probably, excited that he's going to be playing the ball game. It's highly anticipated that he would be a starter very soon, not this soon, but due to injury, he's going to get the start.
Debut.
Doug, debut. He played a little bit last week, but they're playing Sanford from Birmingham, Alabama, FCS school. So they need to score a lot of points, Doug, to make the fans, settle the fans down, because they were not happy playing Miami, in-state rival at home, scoring just 14 points and surrendering 41. That was Billy Napier. I think the seat is so hot, Doug, that I think it'll burn all the way till the end of the season. I don't even know if he's going to make it that long, Doug. It's that serious.
Is that right?
The people are talking already. Yes.
Wow. Well, it's interesting. He's got a warm up with Sanford this weekend. So they got to score a lot of points to get him off the hot seat.
Oh yeah, and Doug, the last game I have listed is Oklahoma. They had a good showing, beat Temple 51-3. I believe that score was at home. They're going to be hosting Houston. That Houston has some good teams in the past, but they're a 20+ point. But Oklahoma's still a 20-something point favorite. So I think they built the real. Yeah. So Jackson Arnold and company, they want to keep scoring a lot of points. You want to survive that game, make sure no one gets injured. You want to beat them handily, because you recruit in Houston. Oklahoma recruits in Houston. Okay. You don't want to have Houston showing any strength against the Oklahoma Sooners out of the SEC. So, but that wraps up the SEC for me, Doug. And like I said, the big game, Texas, Michigan.
No, I'm wrapped up as well. But I'm just going to say a few things. Houston traditionally has had some great wide receivers over the years, and Oklahoma, of course, great coaches that have come through there. great coaching pedigree. And so we'll see how that shakes out. Oklahoma versus Houston.
And that is it this week for the AP and DP show with the SEC and ACC conference coverage. And we'll see you next week of another edition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.